Hello, hello, YouTube. Welcome. This week on LMU, we found ourselves, I should say, at the Bahrain Outer Circuit. Not a track that I've ever done before. Bit of a tricky one. I think it encourages quite a lot of dirty racing, being a short circuit and some heavy braking zones. This was probably the cleanest race I had in a good chunk, maybe a dozen or so races. This was probably the best result I had. A fairly competitive lobby. I believe the field strength was about 14. But with the good rating badge, I think that's similar to about 2 or 3 in terms of splits. So yeah, without further ado, we'll get straight into it and enjoy the race. So here we go. Right, into the race. We qualified P13, as I said. Very bad qualifying. I couldn't string a lap together. I'd been having an awful day sort of regarding different cars, different sessions. Really varying from something like a 13.2 down to up to sort of a low 14s. But here we are, underway, coming down to the first corner. We are surrounded by BMWs. It was definitely the strongest car of this race. The quickest times all set like that. Being really cautious into turn one. Everyone behaving themselves really well. I don't know how you can fit so many BMWs through turn one, but managed to pretty much get through unscathed. Keeping 13th still, no real gains coming through there. Coming into this part of the track, this was probably where I found most of the strength in the Porsche, really able to get late on the brakes and sort of get that rotation mid-corner, really helping with a good exit through this section. But as we can see here, it's our first incident of the race. Our little BMW friend up ahead has a little bit of contact there, and he's going to be very important later on in this race. And sort of looking back on that, we can see it was an accidental touch, but I'd probably put it down to a racing incident. I don't think there was malicious intent there from him. It was more just two going into one in somewhere they don't. However, continuing on with the race, we're just going to sort of settle into a routine here. And to be honest, there wasn't a great deal that sort of happened from this point onwards. We sort of just found our groove, trying to just settle in. This guy was very quick. I think he was out of position as well as myself, if I'm being totally honest. But as you can see, there's 3 BMWs behind and 2 in front. We are absolutely surrounded.
That time was a 1:24.03.
So coming into turn one, hard on the brakes. We did think about a look there, just wasn't quite feeling it, wasn't quite ready to make that move. I thought it was best just to settle in and just see what we can do, see what carnage is going to unfold in front of us, which, to be fair, in this track, a lot of carnage does unfold. So sometimes it's better just to keep it clean, just see what happens and see where people go. But here we can see Spada sending that revenge dive bomb up the inside. This was a corner that I struggled with the BMWs. They seem to be so good on the brakes into these heavy braking zones, and it was really unnerving seeing how much they closed up in some of these braking periods. But coming through here, get a much better exit than Spada, and that's going to bring us through it all the way up into 9th place now. So we've gained a good few places in the first 2 laps. Pretty unscathed, pretty clean. I don't think there's been any contact with anyone, which is what you like to see. And hopefully now we can sort of settle into this routine and try and figure out where our pace sort of sits in this lobby. So here we are onto lap 5, coming into the last corner. We're going to get a nice big dive bomb from Mr. Spada. He's caught up. We've had a couple of errors in the middle part of the track, and he's gone through into P9. But here we see, there's a... How we've avoided that, I'm not too sure. That was a very unsafe rejoin from that BMW. Although the camera might not show it, my heart was in my mouth. So that has put us on the back foot here. We've got this big green and yellow BMW, and we've just missed our braking point, just going into turn 1. However, I believe Mr. Spada cut the corner on the inside and had to slow down to avoid getting that penalty. And that gives us back up into P8. And there we see some absolute carnage in the rearview mirror of the BMWs all gaggling together into one place. And now that we've done that, we've got a bit of a breathing room behind us to Mr. Molnar. About 1 second gap, we can start setting our sights on this McLaren in front and really trying to get our head down and chase after P7. Jumping forward ever so slightly onto what I believe to be lap number 8. We've done some good laps here, we're getting some consistent pace. The gap to the McLaren has stayed at about 2 seconds. He is very quick. However, coming through turn 1 here, we're going to get a really good line. Very nice rotation on the car then. We can just see the McLaren making a little mistake there, which is going to give us an opportunity running into this middle section. He's really on the back foot. We're deciding whether to go for a lunge into this corner or not. We decide against it. We think it's best just to sit back, see what we can do. Just now that we're on the back of him, we've got the slipstream going into turn 1 if we need it. But unfortunately for him, we don't need it. He makes a big error coming through there, big snap of oversteer, and we just avoid being taken out there as well. So back up into P7, which is really nice. And trying to chase after P6 now, which for those keen-eyed viewers is the BMW on lap 1.
That time was a 1:40.11.
So here we go, lap number 12, slowly reeling in this gaggle of cars in front. There's 4 people all the way up till 3rd place. We've really managed to get on the back of this quite nicely with them fighting. We've managed to pull that little bit of gap to the McLaren behind as well, which has given us that breathing room. But as we can see here, looking forward, they're really jostling for position, and in my head I'm just thinking, oh, go on, someone make a move, someone make an error, just to slow everyone down for us, which would be really nice. But we've just got to focus on putting in consistent lap times and not making any errors, because we want to be there to pick up the pieces when inevitably these lot come all together. Three into one here is not looking good. But they managed to keep it clean, they managed to keep it nice and tidy, but they are slow through here. We've managed to gain almost a second in these first few corners of this lap. And Mr. BMW has sent it into the wall. And he will be back, don't you worry.
Time 1:30.94. Time 1:30.94.
Here we're going to make a slight error, just too late on the brakes. I think we were a little bit distracted from the braking points of the other cars. But again, we got lucky with someone else getting a track limits warning and it really having to slow them down on the exit of turn 1. But here we go, our BMW friend back again. Really good run through the first section. Wants to hang it around the outside, but we've just kept that inside line. Getting it down to first gear to get that nice and turned in so we can get a good exit here and keep him away.
Lap 1:14.88.
Again, putting ourselves on the back foot, we're getting a narrow exit there. The BMW is really wanting to go down the inside. We cover the inside, just making sure our intentions are nice and clear. And we missed our braking point. I have no idea how we've not taken out that Mercedes. He must have seen us dive bombing from a mile back because he really slowed down on entry to that corner. And here we go. We've got the BMW looking up our inside into this corner. It's not a corner you want to go too wide through. And once again, the Mercedes getting a really bad exit and pulling alongside. Again, we just do not have the legs in the Porsche to get alongside these Mercedes and BMWs.
Lap 1:15.56.
Here we go, on to the last lap. We're going to come through this last corner. The Mercedes is going to get an awful exit out of there. We've had to go narrow to avoid hitting into the back of him, and the BMW's got a brilliant run on us. We're going to nearly be coming across the start-finish line 3 abreast. I've learnt my lesson from the times before. I'm not going down the outside. If I go down the inside, I'm going to make sure I make it stick. Hitting that apex, nice and rotated. Leaving the room on the inside for the Mercedes. All lovely and clean. But here we go. Here's the BMW with the run of the century. There we go. There's the contact, the controversial contact. I'm not too sure I was at fault. I think it was down to a racing incident. We will review the footage afterwards. However, I think that was a lunge of the century and very opportunistic. It was a last lap lunge. He had to go for it. I actually think if he'd have waited, he would have got me into this last corner. He was much better on the brakes and had a much better exit every time. So I do think had he just been a bit more patient, he would have got me going into this last corner. But there we go. Coming around the last corner to finish P4 from P13 on the grid. A very good result, and one I was very happy with. A lot of good clean racing and yeah, overall, a very, very positive experience. So here we see the onboards or the aerial footage of the last few corners of that race. So here we see me sending up on the inside, nice and clean, puts the Mercedes offline. But the BMW just gets a phenomenal exit coming through here, cuts back on the Mercedes, gets a beautiful run. And albeit he is in my slipstream here, he is about 3/10 behind. And I do think it's a bit of a lunge. From this onboard or this view, it does look like I closed the door ever so slightly on him. I did try and get out of the way. However, from the onboard itself, which we'll now see, I don't think he was ever making that corner. I think it was very, very late and very opportunistic, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think. So there you have it. That was our race. It was a good result in the end, P4. I do think P3 was on the cards. I think the pace was there. I think a better qualifying would have seen us up in P2, potentially even. We did have some good, clean race pace, which was nice, which was a rare change considering we had some awful races before that. And when I say awful, I'm talking like, you know, finishing or DNFing pretty much every race. Yeah, we managed to gain some safety rating there, a little bit of driver rating. Driver rating was a bit iffy due to an awful qualifying. But yeah, a little bit of gain on both and onwards and upwards. Hopefully we can get that silver rating in the next few races. If you did enjoy the video, please do try and drop a subscribe and a like. It really helps me out. Constructive criticism is always helpful as well. Anything I can improve on in terms of actually the formatting of the videos and the lengths. If you enjoy sort of just like a pure uninterrupted race, then maybe I'll try and put one up like that. But yeah, if you did like it, please drop a like. It really helps out, and have a great day.